Shabbat Shalom. Okay, we're going to need our Chumashim for this morning. We're going to do a little bit of some study of the text that we just read, and then a little bit of talking about it before going back to prayer. So I want everyone to turn, but before you turn, actually, it's going to be 157 if you want to get there already. But the parsha that we just read with Yitzchak blessing his two children is an introduction of a new idea in the Torah. The idea that parents offer a blessing to their children does not appear earlier that I know of. I'm sure maybe there's one that I missed, but I don't believe that we see, Adam or Chava blessing their children. I don't think we see it in the generations that it takes to get to Noach or Noach to Avraham. But we see, not only do we see blessings here, but this idea that, well, that's a thing that happens, right? Of course there's a blessing, and we want the blessing, and so Jacob's going to steal the blessing, right, etc. So what I want to look at for a moment here is the blessing that is given to Jacob and the blessing that is given to Esau. Because we have in this moment, right, these two sons, twins born together, and there's a bit of an issue, right? What's the issue with Rivka having these two twin boys? Any thoughts? If you're historically looking at this or thinking ahead, what's the problem? It didn't quite happen with Ishmael and Isaac because they were two different parents. It was a different sort of situation. So what's our problem here? Birthright, right? There can be only one, right? And so how is it that we are able to we have two children? Thank you, back corner, for getting my Highlander reference. But I'll explain it over Kiddush, guys. But so we've got one birthright, one blessing, one nation that's going to be us, but two children, right, born at the same time. What's going to happen here? And so the rabbis have to, first of all, what do they do with Esau in order to make it okay that he doesn't get the blessing? I can't understand. What? Someone raised a hand, shouted out. Yeah, Louis, what you got? Okay, so he gets another blessing, right? Which, by the way, similar to Ishmael, right? If there is this idea that if you are of the sort of Abrahamic lineage, you will be blessed, but maybe a different blessing, okay? What you got? What? He sold it. He doesn't deserve it. He sold it. It was a choice he made. Therefore, he doesn't get the blessing, which, by the way, does that make him a horrible person? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it just makes him a guy that makes bad business decisions or something like that. Okay, what else? Anything else? Yes, please. Great, okay, thank you. Yeah, we make him into a monster, just the worst villain ever. He's a horrible, right, so of course he doesn't get the blessing because he's a villain. Maybe not necessarily here in the text, but definitely where the rabbis go with it makes us feel a little bit better about the whole fooling a blind man in order to steal the blessing kind of thing. Okay, so let's take a look at these two blessings. One is on page 157. This is Isaac blessing Jacob, thinking that he's Esau. It starts on verse 28. It's just those two lines there. I'll even read it out loud. May God give you of the dew of heaven and the fat of the earth abundance of new grain and wine. Let peoples serve you and nations bow to you. Be master over your brothers and let your mother's sons bow to you. Cursed be they who curse you. Blessed they who bless you. Now flip the page. And after this poignant moment, right, when Esau says, have you only one blessing, Father? Right? Bless me too. And he weeps aloud, right? Which we could, another time, we'll talk about the role of this sort of emotive weeping that appears in a few places without words. And Isaac gives him a blessing. And it's on 159 at the top, also 2 lines. See, your abode shall enjoy the fat of the earth and the dew of heaven above. Yet by your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. But when you grow restive, you shall break his yoke from your neck. Okay, 2 blessings to our 2 children. I want you to take a few minutes. By the way, if you want to work with the person next to you, introduce yourself to them, say, hello, my name is Ethan, Shabbat Shalom, it's nice to meet you. Or if you want to just look at it on your own, that's fine too. No one will think you're antisocial for just sitting and reading, okay? But take a moment, look at these 2 blessings, and the question is going to be, of course, how are they the same? How are they different? And what can I learn from these 2 blessings that Isaac gives to his 2 children? The first one is to Jacob. The second one is to Esau. Ready, set, go. If you have a question, raise your hand. Rabbi Cooper is happy to answer all questions that arise as we go. Okay. Give me anyone need another minute? It's okay, take another, 1 more minute. Take another minute. Okay. Do you guys have brilliant ideas? I think that's very cool. But why? Okay, we should probably bring it back. At this point, I can't tell if you guys are so into it that you want to keep learning, or if everyone's like, he's just going to say what he thinks anyways. I'm going to talk to my friend about, the Eagles game. I can't quite tell, but I'm worried about the answer, so I'm not going to ask. Okay, so and by the way, I should have given you for extra bonus credit, Isaac actually gets 2 blessings. If you look on the next chapter, Jacob gets 2 blessings. Once Isaac figures out the ruse, he then gives Isaac then gives Jacob, another blessing on his way out the door. But we'll talk about that another time. So, who noticed differences and similarities in the 2 blessings that Isaac gives to his children? I hear someone being voluntold over here that who's got something for us? What do you got? Okay, dew of heaven and fat of the earth, right, is in both of the blessings, right? Mitala shamayim ushmanei haaretz, that is being given to both of them. Well, okay, so we're going wealth. Fat of the earth, both meaning wealth? That's fine. So over here we got both different ideas of wealth. Let's, yeah. Great. Great. So we set it up originally that Jacob is going to be the ruler, right? And your peoples are going to serve you, not even just other nations, but specifically your brother, right? Your brother is going to serve you. And then he says, and then when he blesses Esau, he says, you will serve your brother, but when you grow restive, you're going to break the yoke from his neck. But we're going to come back to the fat of the earth in a moment, I promise. But just let's drill down on that one for a second. Some of our commentaries pick up on that. What do we make of this? Right? So you're going to be a ruler. You're going to be ruled until anything. Yeah, please. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So you and Ora Chaim, by the way, totally in agreement. So that's nice. For you, Chaim Ibn Attar, 19th century Moroccan rabbi, he points out, right, that Isaac's blessing to Esau here, right, is how does he have this extra blessing for this horrible man, right? He's a horrible person again, right? But he's still his dad, and he's giving him these blessings, and he maybe gives him. So you're saying it's maybe an out. It could be, by the way, that Isaac knows that Esau and his descendants are going to grow up to dominate Israel. And so when he thinks he's blessing Esau, he says, you're going to rule over your brothers, full stop. Then when he realizes what he's done, he says, well, you're going to serve your brother because I already messed up the blessing and you're going to have to serve him, but eventually you will supplant him once you get restive and you break the yoke, right? We could read this as a historical, ideological sort of blessing of how things are going to go. Let's take a couple more. Are this on our rulers and not rulers, or are we moving to next questions? Oh, we're going back to dew of heaven. Did you want a rulers, not rulers? Next question. Okay, great. Love it so much. So we're going to come back to dew of heaven in a second. Let's do next questions. Yes, please, Professor. Okay. Great. One of them did. I'm going to repeat it. That was brilliant. Right? Jacob gets wine and grain. And there's just random jokes for people who don't get them. It's okay, you'll get it one day. And Esau doesn't get wine and grain, he gets the sword, right? You will live by the sword. Setting up, and by the way, so wine and grain, what does that stand in for? It could mean what? Right, it might be agriculture, civilization, right? Wine and grain are things that you have to be made in civilization. You have to ferment the wine, do all things, right? Grain gets turned into other stuff, right? They're markers of civilization. What else could they be, by the way? What? It could be back to our prosperity, just, lots of wine, lots of grain, woo, it could be. It also, when do we use wine and grain? Yeah. Right? Challah and Kiddush. It might be that these are the markers of the religious expression, right? You are going to get this religion and these laws, and Esau's going to get the sword. Let's take one or two more, and then I promise we're going to finish up in a second. Yeah, please. Right. So Midrash Rabbah, by the way, has a whole thing on this, and it's sitting on my dining room table at home right now. So I don't remember it, but Bereshit Rabbah points out this piece of sword and says something to the effect of, right, Esau's sword is actually going to be what will serve, right, his brother. He will be his protection. He will be a service for him until he's not. And by the way, why is Jacob getting the sword and Esau's getting the grain and stuff? Could be religion, could be prosperity. What? Ooh. Thank you. Sorry, guys. Right? Why is Esau getting the sword and Jacob's getting the grain? What do we know about these guys before we go into the blessing scene? Right, Esau's a hunter, right? He's a hunter, so let him be the hunter, the violent person. Jacob is he ish tam yoshe ba'ohalim, he sits in the tents, he studies Torah, let him have his food and his wine. So we're gonna wrap up in a second, but I want to go back to the dew and the fat of the earth, because at least one person over here noticed that dew and the dew of Mital Hashemayim u'mishmanei haaretz is in both of those blessings, but with what? It's reversed, right? For Jacob, it is Mital Hashemayim, the dew of the heavens, and the fat of the earth. And for Esau, he flips it. You shall have the fat of the earth and the dew of the heavens. The Torah doesn't do anything by accident, so what's the deal with this? Part of it has to do with what you think those two things stand for. So what is dew of heaven versus fat of earth? What is that? Yeah, please. Oh, I love it. One is material. It's not even just one rabbi who says it. It's like half of the commentaries, right? So the dew of heaven is spiritual. That's right. Dew is the spiritual wealth. Fat of the earth is material wealth. Yeah, please. Great. So that is, I think it was Chizkuni points that out, but exactly. So second is right, exactly, right. So in the blessing to Esau, God blesses, Isaac blesses the land, right? He blesses the hamakom, the place, and in the first blessing, he blesses the person, the individual. Also in the first blessing, there's a name that shows up that doesn't show up in the second blessing. God is in the first blessing, but not to Esau. And also in the first blessing is this, what do you make of this? Cursed be they who curse you, blessed be those who bless you. Where do we hear that before? Avraham, right? So Jacob is getting the Avrahamic line, right? He is becoming the patriarch in this moment. Esau is getting some other things. And the dichotomy that is created by the rabbis is exactly this of spiritual versus physical, right? Esau becomes, right, the person who is the man of the field, right, the man of the sword, right? He is the physical world. Also, right, he spurns his birthright. Why? Why does he sell that birthright? Because he's hungry. Right? And he's so hungry, and he's like, Ani olech lamut, why do I care about a birthright if I don't have my physical needs met? Right? So Esau is Mr. Physical Needs, whereas Jacob is the learner, the studier. Rabbi Louis Jacobs calls him the man of ideas. Right? He is the spiritual person. By the way, kind of they overlay onto their parents also. Right? Rivka is spirit. Right? Rivka has physical pain and she immediately does what? Goes to God, right? Isaac is asked to give a blessing, something spiritual, and he says, no, before I do, I have to have meat, right? Food, exactly, right? So they're going off of their parental roles here, and this dichotomy that's created is incredibly important. It's incredibly important in three ways. One of them is because of what it sets up for the future. Because the rabbis read Esav as the beginning of whom? Rome, and then Christianity. Right? In fact, Rashi on this verse, when it says, what does the fat of the land mean? He says it means Greece and Rome. Like it literally says Italki. Like it means that he will be given the material power, right, of the Roman Empire, but none of the spirit. And so the rabbinic critique is putting physical over spiritual, which then becomes, by the way, the Christian critique of us, right? That we are carnal Israel and that we only care about the physical world and not the spiritual world. And then there's like a great Jewish rebuttal saying we have to worry about both, of course, which was where we're going to end. Obviously, it's both, right? But in our world today, this dichotomy is still very, very much here. Right? We have our physical needs, we have our physical safety, we have all of the things that we do for ourselves, but also the physical needs and the physical safety of our people, which is incredibly important and things that we have to think about. We also have our spiritual needs, the spiritual needs of us as individuals and the spiritual needs of us as people, as a people. And we have spent a lot of time over the last few months, years, and it's important time, right? Thinking about, worrying about our physical safety and physical needs and what it means to be a Jewish people and where we're going as a Jewish people, as a Jewish nation, and that is incredibly important, right? Both Rambam and Maslow agree, right? We have to have our physical needs taken care of before we can move to the spiritual ones. And we also can't forget our spiritual needs as well. And that is what our religion is all about. We are about making the physical holy. We are about making the mundane special. We are about taking a moment and finding God in the smallest of places in our lives. So my last question for you, before a little story and then we end, is for us to think about the ways in which we can bring that spirituality into our lives. You don't have to turn to the person next. You can just think as I talk for a moment, right? What does it mean to make the physical holy? The rabbis have a lot of different answers for that, right? That it means that the main one is, of course, brachot, that we bless things. We take a moment before we eat the bread, before we drink the wine, before we have the turkey sandwich, and we say a blessing. We bring it to God, and we bring God into that moment. Also prayer. We wake up, we go to sleep. Those are the moments in our lives usually where we're the most groggy, tired, just trying to get to bed, just trying to get to coffee, whatever it might be. And in those moments, the rabbis say, you take a second and you pray. So, in your life, what's it going to mean? We have a big holiday coming up for many people, sorry, Canadians, that is going to happen this week, where we're asked to have gratitude and thanks. And that's another way that we can bring spirituality into our daily lives, where we can make the mundane holy, is that we say thank you to the people or the things that have gotten us where we are, that have gotten us the food on our tables. All of that goes into this. So the rabbis tell a story that how is God going to judge us? Because we are necessarily made up of two parts, bodies and souls. That's what we've been talking about. And so God has to judge us, and what is God going to do? Because the body can basically say, hey, without the soul, I would just be lying here. I couldn't eat treif. I couldn't do anything bad, right? I'm pure, innocent, I'm guilt-free as a body. No, it's that soul you want. That's the real problem, right? And then the soul says to God, hey, I can't eat anything. I can't, do other bad things. Sorry, I'm like kids in the room, okay? Right? I need the body. That's the body is the sinner. That's the thing that tasted the pork. That's the thing that did that. It's not me. So God, we're told in the Talmud, says it's like there was a king who has a garden full of wonderful and delicious things. And the king wants to guard the garden, but is worried that the guards themselves might take from this delicious fruit. So what does the king do? The king finds one guard who can't walk and one guard who can't see, and says, there, so the one that can see but not walk will warn me, and then the one that can walk but not see will go, come and get me, and that way my apples will be saved. And so what happens, of course, One guard says to the other, do you smell something? It smells delicious. And one says, yeah, I see it. Oh, right over there. Oh my God, it looks like the best fruit I've ever had. What are we gonna do? I got it. You get on my back, direct me where to go. We're gonna walk over, we're gonna eat a whole bunch of fruit, and we're gonna come back, and the king's never gonna know, because then we'll separate. So, too, our bodies and our souls join together. And so when God comes to judge us, God puts our souls and our bodies together and judges us as one. And that is the message that we have. We aren't different in those two ways, right? Our bodies and our souls have to necessarily go together. The physical and the spiritual has to go together. And so while sometimes one is more important because we're physically in danger, and sometimes one is more important because without the spirit, really, lama ze anochi, why am I here? What does any of this matter, right? But we have to foster and feed both. So in your life, if you've been a little too into the physical, take some time this week and get spiritual. And if your head's been in the clouds and your heart's been up in heaven, take a moment and don't forget to clean your room. Take care of the physical in some way. Shabbat shalom.